While every effort has been made to provide accurate safety information, the producers, talent, and distributors of Play It Safe disclaim any liabilities or loss in connection with the material and advice contained in the video and printed materials. This program is only part of a complete safety training program. Further information on all the topics in the video is listed at the end of the program. Hello, I'm Arthur Wagner.
And I'm David Fenner. Welcome to Play It Safe, an introduction to theater safety. This safety video is designed for actors, technicians, designers, directors, stage managers, volunteers, faculty advisors, anyone who works in the theater.
Whether a theater operates out of a well-supported facility like here at the University of California, San Diego, or works out of a garage, builds scenery in a driveway, and makes costumes on the dining room table, it doesn't matter. The following safety information applies to everyone.
In fact, workers in smaller theaters are often put at greater risk because much of their set and property construction takes place on stage, where there's likely to be inadequate personal protection equipment and improper ventilation.
All theater workers are constantly exposed to hazards, dangerous machinery, mist, smoke, fog, and to potentially toxic materials such as powdered pigments and dyes, fireproofing chemicals, plastics and resins, spray adhesives and glues, welding materials, cleaning solvents, sawdust, asbestos, firearms, pyrotechnics, and many kinds of paint.
Exposure to these hazards can cause a wide range of reactions, from allergies to asthma attacks to potentially fatal illnesses such as skin and lung cancer, hepatitis, leukemia, heart failure, and damage to the central nervous system.
Working in the theater is tough enough. There's no reason to add lawsuits, liability issues, loss of income, or immediate and long-term health problems to the mix. It's time to revise priorities, put safety first, and keep it there. As an introduction, this video provides initial safety information and basic awareness of how to protect yourself from the dangers and hazards found in theaters.
This introductory program is divided into 6 sections. Part 1, current safety laws and how they apply to all theaters. Part 2, general safety practices. Part 3, chemicals and personal protection equipment. Part 4, the lighting area. Part 5, costumes. And Part 6, scenery and props.
The U.S. Congress has established an organization called OSHA, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration. Canada has similar organizations in each province. The rules are very much the same. So what is said on this video generally applies in both countries. Just to keep it simple, we will refer to OSHA during the video. OSHA has established workplace regulations to protect all employees against harm. These laws include regulations concerning emergency action plans, accident reporting, health and safety committees, safe practices for tools and chemical use, among others. All employers, I'll underline the word employers, are mandated to comply with these basic requirements. Number 1, the employer must have written health and safety guidelines pertaining to that particular worksite and communicate the program to all employees. These guidelines include chemical hazards and are part of a formal hazards communication program mandated by OSHA regulations. Number 2, the employer must inventory all chemical materials on the site and obtain from manufacturers of each hazardous material, information sheets called Material Safety Data Sheets, or MSDSs. The inventory and MSDSs are to be available for reading by all employees. The fire department and other agencies may also require a copy. For example, firefighters need to know what paints and other chemicals are in a building in order to fight a fire. These are known as right-to-know laws. The employee has a right to know what chemicals are on the work site and how to be protected from harm. Number 3, the employer must have a formal training program for all employees to protect them against hazardous materials. These right-to-know laws are federal regulations in both the U.S. and Canada. Since this is an introduction to theater safety, I want to urge each theater to call their own Department of Labor or Labor Canada and get a copy of the law that applies to them. There are appropriate phone numbers at the end of the video program. This video will deal with the general provisions of the regulations rather than nitpicking. After all, the intent of these laws is the same: to keep theater workers safe. The words employer and employee are used in OSHA regulations because the laws are written to apply to those two groups. One would conclude that actors, technicians, stage managers, and others who are employed by a theater and have benefits deducted from their paychecks, that's the key phrase, are the only ones covered under these laws. However, independent contractors also must comply with the theater's right-to-know program. For example, if independent contractors bring paint, dyes, or other chemical products into the theater, they must have MSDSs on them. And if they store them in the theater, they must be added to the theater's inventory. And what about students, volunteers, and other unpaid helpers? How do they fit into the safety regulations? Even though unpaid workers don't come under OSHA, the theater still should extend training and protection to them. This is not only ethical, it is wise from a legal perspective. For if unpaid workers, students, or volunteers are injured or made ill on the job, the theater can be held liable. Regular employees are covered by workmen's compensation. Teachers have an even more unique position in all of this because they and/or school administrators may be held directly liable for harm coming to their students caused by classroom activities and projects. And this harm can vary from an injury that is obvious at the time it occurs to an illness that occurs in the future due to some hazardous chemical they used. For all these reasons, everyone working in the theater should be covered by right-to-know programs.
This means they all should be trained to read MSDSs in order to understand the hazards of their job and be guided and protected by those in supervision.
And since it applies to everyone, this video will use the words theater worker or workers, meaning the information is meant for paid employees, students, independent contractors, and volunteers. The potential for litigation falls hard on supervisors. Teachers and staff supervisors must protect themselves by following OSHA regulations, providing a clean and safe environment for all workers, teaching and enforcing safe work practices, and training workers properly. OSHA does not specify the length of a proper training session. They expect workers to be trained however long it takes to teach them to read the MSDSs on the products they use, to understand how these products can affect them, and how to use them safely. Most trainers verify this understanding with quizzes that are kept on file as a legal backup. Experience tells us that training might take as little as 3 hours to as long as a week or more, depending on the complexity of the work and the number of chemicals and processes used in the theater. OSHA also expects that workers will be retrained whenever a new chemical or process is introduced, and that review of training will be done regularly, usually annually. Time spent on safety has a high return of productivity and reduction of immediate and long-term health complications. The best way to make all this work happen successfully is for the theater to create an on-site health and safety committee made up of representatives of all types of workers, actors, technicians, designers, faculty, and administrators, who meet regularly to develop printed safety materials and oversee safety training in all areas of the operation. The committee can also help employers comply with all other applicable OSHA regulations, such as accident reporting, development of written emergency plans, respirator protection plans, ladder use rules, sanitation, electrical code enforcement, hearing protection, discipline, and equipment and building maintenance. In fact, every aspect of theater is affected in some way by OSHA rules. Large theaters, school districts, and universities have full-time safety professionals or industrial hygienists to keep up with the constantly changing work. Smaller theaters and schools can use the services of outside consultants or rely on publications and advice from OSHA and other government agencies. Several theater organizations have information that is helpful to improving theater safety. Safety regulations are constantly changing, so to help you keep up with current rules, at the end of the video, we have included a bibliography and comments about consultants and publications. Contact them for the latest information and how the laws apply to your specific theater. Just a personal experience. When I was once director of a theater, I had a designer at one time who was looking at his set, I think for the first time that we had hung it, and wanted to get a clearer perspective and started backing off from the scenery until he got to the edge of the stage and backed off one more step and fell into the orchestra pit. And in the immortal words of the theater, he literally broke a leg. If we had had a few more safety concerns, I believe something like that would not have happened. So I urge you to watch and listen carefully to what is to follow.
Both U.S. and Canadian regulations require written emergency plans detailing how theater staff will deal with fires, emergency evacuations, and serious injury. By law, these emergency plans must be explained to workers and drills must be held that include evacuation of the audience. Emergency response should be rehearsed like a play. It's too late to get the blocking straight when the smoke alarm is sounding. For example, the plan should include a list of emergency numbers placed by all telephones. A person calling for help should find, next to the phone, procedures for summoning all emergency services. If the emergency number is other than 911, be sure it is clearly posted and mentioned during the safety orientation. When calling for help, be calm, cool, and specific. Give your name. Name the building and the exact room location of the emergency. Describe the nature of the problem: fire, chemical spill, injuries. Tell of any hazards present which may affect responding emergency personnel. Give the number of a phone near the scene where you can be reached. A posted plan of the building should show room labels and aid in giving this information. Theater facilities can be very confusing in layout. The written emergency plan must designate specific people who are to seek help in an emergency. Also, one or more people should be assigned to go to the nearest street to guide emergency personnel to the correct site within the building. In case of fire or when evacuation is necessary, activate a red fire alarm pull box. In most cases, when a fire alarm sounds, emergency personnel are alerted automatically. To be sure, follow the alarm with a phone call from a safe location immediately. If an alarm goes off in your theater, evacuate the building immediately. When evacuating, always use stairs and never an elevator. Shut doors behind you, and do not re-enter until it has been checked by qualified personnel and an all clear is stated. Each theater should have an exterior staging area. an assembly point for the workers to meet in the event of an evacuation. Gathering at this safe location will allow for an accounting of all personnel and any possible injuries. The location of staging areas should also be posted at doors, on first aid kits, and at telephones. At the start of each production period, review the location of the staging area and run an evacuation drill to make sure everyone can find it. In choosing a staging area, be conscious of company members who have disabilities and might need assistance to reach it. This includes individuals who are mobily impaired, those who have sight or hearing problems, asthma or breathing problems, and those who have a low tolerance for smoke. Keep records of important health and insurance information for each company member to allow for immediate aid in case of an injury. A suggested sample form accompanies this video. Stage management should have a prepared announcement alerting audience members to any emergency that requires them to evacuate. Whether given over a PA system or live on stage, it must be delivered with calm and authority. Ladies and gentlemen, we are stopping the show. Please leave the theater immediately through the nearest exit. Curbs around theaters might be painted red or posted, "No parking." This allows for easy access of emergency vehicles and must be respected by all theater workers. Exit doors and emergency passageways must never be blocked for any reason. They must not be covered with scenery, chained shut, or used as a storage space. If you find a situation like this, clear it immediately. Or report it to your supervisor in writing. Exit signs must not be altered in appearance or illumination quality for any reason. If there is an existing exit sign, it must be lit. National safety codes are very strict on exit signs and emergency lighting issues. Even the slightest alteration is strictly prohibited. Proscenium theaters are required to have fireproof material at the proscenium frame when the fly space is a certain height above the opening. A fire curtain separates the audience from any fire, smoke, or gases on stage. Older curtains were commonly made of steel or asbestos. Newer designs are usually made out of specially woven fibers like high-temperature resistant fiberglass. If there is a large fire in this stage space, the fire curtain is designed to come in automatically. It is activated by one of several common trip devices. In this case, fire melts heat sensors along the safety lines at the proscenium. If personnel are on stage when a fire breaks out, they should shout an alert, "Fire curtain coming in!" and cut the fire curtain safety line. This line has a lot of tension on it, so cut and duck. Normally, these cut lines are located on each side of the proscenium opening. Find out where your cut lines are located. Be sure the wire cutters are in place and in good working order. When the trip line is cut, a counterweight is lifted and the curtain falls quite rapidly to cover the proscenium opening. Metal guides along the side of each wall steer the fire curtain to the floor. This keeps fire, smoke, and gases contained here on stage. A tight fit at the bottom could mean the difference between life and death. In many cases, smoke and gases can be more deadly than fire. Smoke can cause panic and confusion in the audience and block exit lights that lead to safety. Gases produced on stage can flow to the rear of the auditorium and overcome the audience members. If there is a tall stage house and the fire curtain is in its proper lowered position, the gases and smoke rise and will be expelled through the smoke doors or exhaust fans on the roof of the theater. These should open automatically or turn on with a sensor, but there might also be a manual override. Find out how your smoke doors operate. Directors and designers have to realize that this safety zone must be kept clear of scenery, props, or furniture, or any object that might keep the fire curtain from going all the way to the floor. Many educational and community theaters mistakenly think they don't have to obey this rule. They violate the law and put a great many lives at risk. Obstructing the fire curtain line is never worth a tragedy. Some theaters built in the 1960s have a deluge water system at the proscenium designed to keep fire from spreading to the audience. However, current safety experts warn that though this water system inhibits fire, it does nothing to suppress smoke and gases. Check with your local fire authorities to make sure your proscenium meets current safety standards. Thrust, black box, and platform stages do not have fly lofts and so do not need fire curtains. These spaces probably rely on a water sprinkler system to suppress any fire. It's a good idea to know where the sprinkler shutoff valve is located.
Protect audience members. Number 1, keep aisleways clear. Don't seat audience members here in the aisle. Number 2, keep extra chairs out of the aisle. Chairs placed at the end of the row can block exiting audience members.
Keep chairs on temporary platforms from falling by using a chair guard and a heavy-duty railing. Local laws may require that chairs be tied together or secured to the platform to keep them from tipping. Law or not, it's a good idea. Platform width, aisle width, and the number of chairs allowed in one row are strictly regulated. Each theater space is given an overall occupancy limit by the fire marshal. Temporary steps must be firmly secured to the platform and meet safety codes for width, height, and visibility. Local safety authorities can give the dimension particulars. Equip all ushers, technicians, and Jedi Knights with flashlights for use in emergency situations. House lights must be able to come up immediately. Designate an usher to be in the house at all times. This person's duty is to respond to problems and alert others as needed. Give ushers both verbal and written instructions during their orientation, explaining audience safety procedures. Be sure ushers are ready to assist the disabled in the event of an emergency. The placement of the visually, hearing, or mobily impaired is tightly regulated by the Americans with Disabilities Act. Contact the reference number at the end of the video for more information.
Fire can easily happen in any theater space. When a fire erupts, call for help immediately, either by phone or alarm, if you can do so safely. Otherwise, evacuate and close the doors behind you. Then, and only if you have a clear exit to safety, attempt to fight the fire. Attempting to fight the fire first wastes precious time. There are 3 categories of fire, A, B, or C. Fire extinguishers have a letter-coded rating system, A, B, or C, printed on the extinguisher label. Here's a tip on how to remember the codes.
Type A fires burn to ash. These fires are wood, cloth, paper, and most organic trash. Type B fires are burning flammable liquids such as gasoline, oil paints, and grease. Never throw water on a Type B fire. Type C fires are electrical, or C for current related. Never throw water on an electrical fire. A serious shock or even electrocution may result. First, unplug the device or turn off the power, then fight the fire. If the power is off, types A or B can be used.
Some fire extinguishers have multiple firefighting capabilities, either a combination of 2 or all 3, A, B, and C. These universally rated A, B, C extinguishers are found in most theaters. Many organizations have strict guidelines on who can fight fires. This extinguisher information is given with the understanding that this equipment is to be used when fighting smaller fires or to fight fires in order to escape from a facility. To use any extinguisher, remember the word PASS, pass. P, pull the pin. A, aim at the base of the fire. S, squeeze the handle firmly. S, sweep at the fire. Pull the pin, aim, squeeze, sweep. Pass. Each pound of chemical in the container gives the user about 1 second of discharge.
A 3 3/4 pound extinguisher gives only about 4 seconds of firefighting time.
If there are other types of fire suppression equipment in your theater, call your fire department and ask for a demonstration on their proper use. Real fires on stage are completely forbidden in many areas of North America. Exceptions are sometimes made with strict fire permits and or the presence of a fireperson backstage. Cigarette smoking on stage and the burning of small candles are illegal in many theaters. Check with your local fire authorities or campus safety officials to review regulations for your theater. Here are some guidelines when simple fire effects are permitted.
When candles or other similar effects are approved for use, Assign at least one technician to hold an approved fire extinguisher and have an unobstructed view of the action on stage. Nearby costumes and wigs must be treated or made from flame retardant material. Candles need holders to keep wax-off costumes in the floor. At no time may there be containers of oil or flammable liquid on stage. A dropped lantern spilling kerosene in a lighted wick would be an instant disaster. There are many good electric and battery substitutes for most candle and lantern effects. These are always safer for the actor and crew. When cigarettes are approved for use, fill bottoms of ashtrays with wet sand to help put them out quickly. Due to the hazards of secondhand cigarette smoke, a large sign must be posted to warn the audience. Let's not forget, smoking cigarettes is also a fire hazard. Addicted smokers need to puff outside in an area properly equipped with large containers for the butts, and away from non-smoking people, wood decks, dry grass, and flammable chemicals and materials.
Explosions and other pyrotechnics on stage need to be designed, built, and executed under the supervision of licensed experts and with the approval of fire authorities. Scenery and props are required to be treated with an approved flame retardant solution.
There are several commercial chemical flame retardant products on the market specifically designed for theaters. A theater supplier can help you find the best product for your needs.
An inexpensive flame retardant solution can be made by following the recipe at the end of this video. Here are some important definitions.
When an object is flame retardant, the material will burn, but will extinguish itself after the flame source is removed. When an object is flame-proofed, the material will not burn at all.
Here's a demonstration to show how flammable some of these common scenery products can be. This is 100% cotton scenic muslin, untreated. This is 100% cotton scenic muslin treated with a chemical flame retardant.
Here is untreated cardboard being hit by an ellipsoidal spotlight.
Here's an acrylic wig in a scene with a passing candle. Physical hazards abound in the theater. A rope temporarily strung across the proscenium opening could have prevented that accident that Arthur mentioned earlier.
Paint frame wells are very dangerous to be around, and a secure railing is needed to protect workers. Open traps must be identified with glow tape or paint and protected with barriers when not in use. If depressions or open traps remain after a performance, keep guests off the stage. Many accidental falls in the theater can be avoided by thoroughly rehearsing entrances and exits, and by providing adequate running lights backstage. Build exit stairs leaving sets with sturdy railings to protect the actors and crew. Use glow tape, white tape, or running lights to prevent injuries on stairs and around depressions. Here are 3 ways to charge glow tape: an electric light, a powerful flashlight, or my favorite, a camera flash. Keep tools and supplies off stairs and steps, since people don't expect foreign objects there. Overhead hazards should be avoided, or padded and lighted.
Weapons and firearms on stage are extremely dangerous and have been the source of many fatal theater accidents. Play it safe. Never use swords or firearms on stage without the advisement and training of an expert. Even simple hand-to-hand fights and falls must be choreographed by an expert.
An excellent source for the use of guns, America's most deadly prop, is the 45-minute video Firearm Safety on Stage, hosted by Robert B. Chambers. Information on this program is included at the end of the video.
Food used on stage must be preserved under safe and sanitary conditions. Never store chemicals, photo supplies, or other non-food items in refrigerators used for food.
OSHA's sanitation standards require that an area be provided for food and drink to be stored and consumed, and to be separated from hazardous areas by walls and doors. This keeps food away from areas where there are toxic substances. Food and drink are not allowed in a wood shop, dye or paint shop, wig room, or other places where paints, wood dust, spray products, and other toxic products are used or stored. The old habit of drinking tea while painting sets is out. Leftover prop food and old snack food attracts ants, flies, mice, and rats. Pesticides and poisons are then used to control the situation, but can be hazardous to people. Restricting food to a special room and keeping it clean can reduce or eliminate the need for pesticides.
Sometimes theater rigging can be quite simple, like pulling in a curtain. Sometimes it can be full of highly complex movements, as seen in this test of the rigging from the musical Tommy.
Line set coming in.
Regardless of how simple or complex the operation, the operator must understand the workings and limits of the complete rigging system so it can be operated safely. Only one person should be in charge of supervising and giving directions during rigging setups and strikes.
Keep quiet on deck, please. You want to load 20 more pounds on line set 12? Give me a clear when you're all done.
Loading and unloading of the counterweight arbors should take place in a quiet environment so instructions can be safely communicated. Most rigging accidents occur when pipes are improperly loaded or unloaded. Here is the proper loading and unloading sequence. To load a pipe batten, shout a loud warning. Line set coming in! Bring the pipe in all the way to the bottom position. This puts the arbor in the top loading position. Now load the scenery or lighting. When that is complete, load the appropriate amount of counterbalance weight on the arbor. One person above should sound off when starting and finishing the work. Loading! Many older theaters do not have a top-loading gallery, so the arbor must be pulled down and loaded at the bottom stop. An extremely dangerous maneuver. Check for balance and re-weight if necessary. Never stand under the arbors during loading or unloading. Station workers to keep others out of the area. When striking items off a pipe, bring the batten into the bottom position. Unload the weight off the arbor. Unloading! Then unload the pipe. If the spotlights are taken off too soon, you get a tremendous runaway line set with arbors crashing to the floor. It's a killer situation.
Workers operating the rigging system must be trained in the proper loading and unloading of counterweights, the safe use of spreader plates, use every 2 feet up the arbor. These will help keep the weights on the arbor if there's a runaway, adjustments needed for proper lock tension, the proper installation of spike marks, modify a large blunt screwdriver to pull nylon tape back through the rope, and tie. Do not use adhesive tape because it can slip along the rope. Putting spike marks at the top of the fist so it's in clear view for the stop. Emptying pockets of loose items and tethering any tools when going above the stage. And everyone should know that no one should be on the stage floor when there is work being done in the grid.
If you are a rigging operator and don't understand the full operation, ask for help. A list of helpful publications concerning stage rigging is included at the end of the video. Potential health hazards can be found here in the dressing room, too. Bacterial infections are commonly caused by sharing makeup. Never lend or share your makeup with anyone. Technicians should use applicators when applying makeup and not fingers and hands. Washing your hands before and after applying makeup and using new or sanitized applicators will help to prevent the spread of bacterial infections such as conjunctivitis or pink eye. Anyone who works around or regularly wears makeup is susceptible. Purchasing your own makeup kit is an investment in good health. Wash all sponges and brushes in hot soapy water after individual use. Store makeup materials in a cool place to increase shelf life. Clean tap water, not saliva, is the best way to moisten cakes and brushes. Danger to skin, eyes, and the respiratory system can be found in the makeup area. Wear makeup, don't breathe it. The use of a modest amount of powder on the puff will keep inhalation to a minimum. Aerosol sprays are harmful to eyes, contact lenses, throat, and skin. They are also a fire hazard. There are plenty of pump spray alternatives, and these are safer when used with caution.
Apply spirit gum in well-ventilated areas. Discontinue use if any irritation occurs. Apply moisturizers after cleanup to prevent dry, unsafe skin.
Keep a number of first aid kits in well-known areas around the theater. When evacuating, take several first aid kits with you for emergency use outside.
OSHA regulations require that theater companies have at least one person on each work shift who knows CPR and first aid.
In these days of HIV and hepatitis B dangers, all blood and bodily fluids must be assumed infectious. Those attending to an injured person with a blood wound must wear latex gloves. Keep these latex gloves in all first aid kits. Blood is to be cleaned up with EPA-approved solutions or bleach mixed in a ratio of 1 part bleach to 10 parts water. For cleanup and disposal assistance, notify local safety authorities.
A written program is required to outline how blood and body fluids will be handled in the workplace.
Workers who handle dance shoes run an often unperceived risk of infection. Blisters and worn skin can leave blood and pus on shoes. Wardrobe workers must protect themselves by not handling contaminated items without personal protection.
Never work alone in any theater space, either as an actor, director, technician, designer, or stage manager. Work with a partner or others who can find help for you if you need it. Open-toed shoes, bare feet, sandals, and the like are not acceptable. No way, muchos no-os, footwear for work in the theater. Even sneakers offer only minimal protection against the many floor-level dangers. Hard-soled shoes. Those are the best, and they're required footwear in most theater scene shops. And Commander Safety says, never operate power tools or stage equipment under the influence of alcohol, drugs, and certain medications. Theaters and rehearsal spaces must be left with work lights on for simple, safe illumination. Never leave theater spaces in total darkness.
When lifting heavy objects such as furniture, props, or platforms, bend the knees, keep a straight back, and lift with your legs, not the middle back muscles. When lifting with a partner, communicate your movements to avoid surprises that could lead to strained backs and smashed fingers. Back belts are intended to provide extra support to the back during heavy lifting. They remind the wearer to use proper lifting techniques. They increase stability to the spine and may reduce back pain symptoms. But there's a downside. Back belts have not been proven to protect wearers from back injuries. They do not take the place of proper lifting techniques. They do not replace the physical conditioning required to avoid back injury. And Back belts do not allow a person to safely lift a load beyond their normal capability. In fact, wearing back belts for a prolonged period of time can have adverse health effects. Wearing the back belt all day results in increased blood pressure and loss of abdominal muscle tone. When the belt is removed, the back must rely on weakened abdominal muscles. Then the risk of back injury is greater than ever. When wearing a back belt, keep it loose and tighten it only when extra support is needed.
Here's a juicy ailment that has found its way into the theater. The term cumulative trauma disorder refers to a number of painful inflammations caused by repetitive motions or by the regular use of awkward body positioning. Improper body alignment with computers commonly causes a condition known as carpal tunnel syndrome. Unnatural positioning puts too much pressure on the median nerve that runs through the wrist, and this results in symptoms such as numbness, tingling, and wrist pain. To avoid this common problem at the computer, follow the computer manufacturer's directions. Use the correct seating height and posture in relationship to the desk and keyboard. Keep the wrist and forearm level with the keyboard. Fingers and arms held high can cause CTS. A piece of foam in front of the keyboard lifts the wrists and helps keep them at the proper height. A rolled-up towel will do the same thing. Position your eyes level, about 3/4 of the way up the computer screen. Too high or low causes neck, shoulder, and eye problems. Face away from windows and bright lights while working on a computer. This avoids putting the eye through the constant irising that may lead to eye fatigue. You know, many studies show that the hours of midnight to sunup are the most dangerous in any workplace, and the theater is no exception. The reason? Fatigue. Many theaters forbid any activity between midnight and 6 a.m., including strikes. Make all-night work sessions a thing of the past.
Hazardous and toxic chemicals can be found in many areas of the theater. Some of these chemicals have become valuable aids in building sets, costumes, and props. However, these same helpful chemicals can come with expensive and often unknown price tags. Your health and life. Take a look in here. Paint and varnish remover, shellac, leather dye, polyester resin, spray adhesive. These commonly used chemicals can affect your lungs, liver, heart, brain, and skin. They interfere with how your body works. Sometimes the interference is minor. Other times it causes illness and even death. There are 3 ways toxic chemicals can enter the body and cause damage: skin contact, inhalation, and ingestion.
Number 1, skin contact. Chemicals break down natural skin barriers to enter the body and perhaps enter the bloodstream. Certain solvents can enter the body with no apparent damage to the skin. Turpentine and lacquer are examples of these types of chemicals. Number 2, inhalation. Chemical vapors, resin vapors, and welding fumes enter the body through the air you breathe and can damage lung tissue immediately.
Breathing certain dusts and mists can take time to affect your body. Certain substances can pass through your lungs, into your bloodstream, and on to other vital organs.
Number 3, ingestion. Foolish as it sounds, toxic materials are often inadvertently eaten. Dirty hands with paint materials, foam bits, and chemical residue taken in accidentally can lead to illness and permanent disability.
Here are 6 ways to protect yourself from chemical poisoning.
Consult the Material Safety Data Sheets, MSDSs, that are required by law to accompany chemicals. If there are no MSDSs, don't use the materials. MSDSs have the following basic information divided into easy-to-read blocks: material identification and name, ingredients and hazards, some technical physical data, fire and explosion information, reactivity, how it reacts with other materials, and decomposition data, health hazard information, or how it will react in and on the body, information on spills, leaks, and disposal, special protection information including ventilation, and special precautions and other comments. By law, these MSDSs must be made available to all workers.
The second way to protect yourself from chemical harm is to use the MSDSs to determine which products contain the least amount of toxic ingredients. Number 3, use water-based or latex products. Number 4, use products that don't create dust or mists.
Avoid airborne particles and eye and lung contamination by using a glove box for the mixing of bronzing powder, dyes, and other fine substances. Here, a plastic cover has been put over a cardboard box so that the mixing and stirring can happen inside a closed environment.
Number 5, proper ventilation. Proper ventilation is the most effective protection against airborne contaminants. Proper ventilation is also the most neglected type of protection available to theater workers. Simply opening doors and windows is not enough to create proper ventilation.
Use local exhaust ventilation to capture toxic materials at their source before they have a chance to harm you. Arrange work areas so fresh air flows past the workers before it gets contaminated. Be sure there is no one receiving the contaminated air beyond the workplace. A simple test for proper ventilation is to use soap bubbles. Put a few bubbles in the air and watch where they go. If they move up and away from the proposed work site, it's safe to work there.
Number 6, use personal protection equipment such as gloves, face shields, eye protection, hearing protection, respirators, and masks. Use a glove chart to match the glove you need to the job you're doing. Glove charts also give the length of time it takes for various solvents and chemicals to permeate the gloves without changing their appearance. No one glove type will stop all chemicals. Use safety eyewear to protect yourself from flying particles, dusts, chemical splashes, and radiant light.
OSHA requires eye protection that meets the ANSI Z87.1 standards for impact protection. Glasses and goggles that meet OSHA standards have a Z87 stamped on them. Goggles are the best eye protection in the theater. There are safety glasses that meet OSHA standards, such as semi-side shields and side cup shields that protect from the top and bottom too. But with the many hazards found backstage, it's best to use goggles. Face shields are only effective when used with other ANSI-approved eye protection and are most needed when there is a chance of wood splintering or other flying hazards that could cause damage to the face.
Gas-permeable contact lenses are designed to absorb oxygen and other gases from the air. Unfortunately, they also absorb toxic gases and solvent vapors. These gases and vapors are trapped to the eye by the lens, causing severe irritation. Hard contact lenses are also a problem. If an irritating chemical is splashed in the eye, precious time can be lost while the lens is removed. Contact lenses should never be worn around toxic or irritating liquids. People with vision problems should wear their regular framed glasses under chemical splash goggles. Dust masks and respirators help protect against airborne hazards. Dusts, fumes, and mists are tiny particles that can be seen as they float through the air.
But some types of mists and dusts are extremely fine and not normally visible. These go deeper in the lungs.
Dust is caused by sawing, sanding, and sweeping. Fumes come from operations like welding and soldering. Mists are made when spraying and smoke occur. Gases and vapors are invisible contaminants suspended in the air. Gases are produced by chemical processing and high heat operations.
Vapors are the result of evaporation from solvents, paints, and varnishes.
Disposable dust masks are for particles only. They trap airborne particles before you breathe them. Use only NIOSH-approved disposable dust masks. Pinch the metal nose clip to mold the mask to your face and ensure a snug fit.
Use only NIOSH-approved toxic dust masks that have 2 straps. One-strap masks are for household use and protect against pollens. They are not approved for use with toxic dusts and airborne hazards found in theaters. These are designed to be thrown away after use. Don't hang the masks up to collect dust, then return to wear them.
Cartridge respirators purify the air by capturing gases and vapors before they enter your airway. When you exhale, a valve opens to let old air out, then closes so contaminated air can't enter.
Each cartridge is made for a specific gas or vapor hazard. Use a cartridge chart to determine the best cartridge for your job. Do not interchange cartridges from one manufacturer to the mask of another. They may not fit properly.
OSHA requires employers to provide ventilation for control of toxic air contaminants and allows for the use of respirators only as a last resort. OSHA usually approves respirators for situations where they are only needed occasionally or when ventilation systems are being installed or repaired. OSHA requires employers to have a written respirator program describing how they will provide medical checkups and fit testing for each wearer and for respirator selection and training.
A half mask will not protect you unless it is sealed to your face. Facial hair, scars, and such will prevent a secure fit.
Respirator users report that they prefer to use their own personal equipment since the soft rubber of the mask adapts to individual facial contours as the rubber ages.
Respirators should be fitted to each person by a trained expert, and records kept on who is approved to wear which equipment.
Here are 3 ways to test a cartridge before entering a hazardous area. Number 1.
The negative fit test. Place palms over the cartridge openings and inhale for 10 seconds. You should feel the mask pull into your face. Number 2. The positive fit test. Gently place a finger or 2 over the exhalation valve opening and exhale gently into the mask. You should feel pressure into the face piece. Another test is to place banana oil on a cotton ball and check the seal around the face. If you smell banana oil, you have a leak.
Respirators should be cleaned often, and most importantly, kept in a sealed container to maintain the filter's effectiveness. Each cartridge has its own time limit of protection, which should be included in the instructions.
The useful service life of a respirator cartridge filter will vary with the nature of hazardous atmosphere and activity of the user. A rule of thumb for cartridge time limits is that they are effective for 10 days, or 8 hours of use, or when an odor is detected, which might be sooner.
Children and animals have a lower level of tolerance for toxins than adults do. Keep pets and children out of the workplace when working with chemicals. Exposures to chemicals can have serious consequences on both the female and male reproductive systems, with the effect of toxins on males often being overlooked. Toxic effect on males include abnormal development of sperm and a long list of other symptoms that can lead to impaired fertility and a multitude of adverse effects on offspring.
While females have all of their eggs at the time of birth, sperm production is both continuous and cyclical and does not begin until puberty. For the male, the 3 months prior to conception are of greatest concern, since it takes that long for sperm to form and mature.
Toxic exposure to the female during pregnancy can have adverse effects on both the mother and the unborn child.
This is a very complicated area. There might well be other reproductive and cumulative hazards that affect the body's tolerance level. If you believe you have been exposed to hazardous chemicals, contact your physician or one of the health consultants named at the end of the video for a physician referral in your area of the country.
Women and men, play it safe.
Use a formal waste management program to dispose of toxic chemical wastes. Store leftover chemicals for pickup. Never pour chemicals into a sink or dump them down a storm drain.
If you're in a theater operation that doesn't have a formal waste management program, don't use chemicals that require this level of disposal. Instead, use the suitable substitutes for oil-based paints, cleaners, and chemical solvents.
There are many friendly materials on the market that do not need all the chemical and heat procedures required of more traditional supplies.
We now know how hazardous industrial air pollution and secondhand smoke can be. Yet we don't think twice about going to concerts or performing on stages where the air is so filled with smoke that we can hardly see. People are designed to breathe fresh air. If you can see the air, it's probably not fresh, and it's not safe. Anytime there are chemicals in the air, there is some degree of hazard, regardless of the non-toxic labels on many theatrical fog and smoke products. Though technically non-toxic, the improper use of some of these products can cause allergy symptoms and asthma attacks.
A number of lawsuits by individuals who allege severe allergic reactions to fog and smoke products have resulted in smoke juice manufacturers and theater production companies paying large cash settlements.
Designers who alter or tamper with commercial fog products or mix their own products also can be sued personally for any harm these cause. This is because legally they can be considered a manufacturer. Dry ice is the least toxic of fog and smoke products and only becomes hazardous when used in amounts that inhibits breathing. Dry ice speeds up the breathing process, causing a person to breathe faster and take in even more oxygen-depleted air. This commonly happens to musicians when the cold, heavy, carbon dioxide-rich fog spills off the stage and fills the orchestra pit.
Another dangerous situation arises when low-lying fog is mixed with theatrical smoke. People in the fog will tend to breathe faster and take in the more hazardous smoke. Also, never lay down in dry ice fog. There might not be sufficient oxygen.
When using chemical fog and smoke, read the MSDSs. Workers who have allergies or asthma may not be able to work in fog and smoke and should check with their physicians first. Many theaters use what is referred to as cracked oil to create beautifully sculptured mists that lighting designers love. This is usually mineral oil put under pressure and propelled into the air. Unlike some other commercial smokes and fogs that only cause an allergic or asthma reaction, mineral oil settles deep in the lungs and stays there.
It is not always absorbed into the body like some other smokes and fogs. Some is retained.
Since audience members cannot be screened for asthma or other allergies, they must be protected through adequate ventilation that prevents smoke and fog from floating into the audience area. Provide large signs in the lobby to warn audience members when fog and smoke are being used. Designers are often exposed to health risks from the materials they use to create models and drawings.
Art, theater, and industrial products do not have to meet the same long-term testing requirements for cancer, reproductive hazards, and the like, as do drugs and cosmetics. Therefore, even products labeled non-toxic may not have been adequately tested. A good rule here is to reduce exposure to the lowest level possible.
Many designers use oven-cured polymer clays like Fimo and Sculpey to help create scenic models.
Fimo and Sculpey have been linked to causing enlarged livers in animal tests.
They have either been labeled non-toxic or not labeled at all, because they have not yet been studied for cancerous effects. Industrial hygienist Monona Rasal categorizes these materials as not suitable for children or pregnant women. Adults who choose to take the risk should use polymer clays in studios that are separated from living areas. Curing should be done in an oven which is never used for food and whose emissions are vented outside. Scrupulous hygiene should be practiced. Hands should be washed after each use. Nitrile gloves, which help protect against chemical penetration, may provide protection. In other words, treat all non-toxic materials with great respect. Spray paints and fixatives used in the model making and drawing area are also hazardous. You must have a special ventilation system, such as a spray booth, to use these products safely.
Our lungs are not meant to be exposed to large amounts of dusts and sprays. Medical studies have correlated particulate concentrations in the air with higher rates of respiratory problems.
Remember, if you don't eat it, breathe it, or get it all over yourself, you haven't been exposed to it.
Lighting equipment should be hung in a secure and proper manner. For extra security, instruments should be fitted with a safety cable. This cable goes on first and comes off last. For most spotlight installations, finger tighten the C-clamp, then proceed with the rest of the adjustments. This means that the C-clamp is wrench tightened to the pipe batten. The holding bolt is snug at the yoke. Any adjusting knobs are checked to be sure they are also snug and can be easily moved later when focusing takes place. Safety cable all accessories to the spotlight so they cannot accidentally fall off. Double check to be sure the spotlight is hung with the correct side up and that the gel frame opening is in the top position. Never hang lighting equipment on steam, water, electrical conduit, gas, or fire sprinkler pipes. Notice how the electricians tie their wrenches to their belt loops in a nifty fashion, either with a rope, bungee cord, or retractable cable. In a pinch, a long shoelace might do. It looks great too. Anyone going to the grid should empty pockets, secure glasses with a strap, and be sure all tools are tethered to a belt loop. Heads!
Here's another tip, safety sidekicks. Don't leave gel frames, wrenches, clipboards, tools, or supplies on gutters or catwalks where they can be knocked off and endanger people below.
Crew members should know the location of the master electrical panel. In an emergency, it might have to be turned off. Ladders around the electrical area need to be made of wood or fiberglass in order to reduce the severity of electrical shock. Aluminum ladders and scaffolding conduct electricity caused by an electrical short, often traveling through the person holding the malfunctioning equipment. Fiberglass and wooden ladders do not conduct electricity and are much safer around all electrical equipment. An A-frame ladder is helpful for focusing spotlights. Be sure at least 2 people are available to foot or secure the ladder when someone is above.
OSHA, stagehand unions, and many theaters have strict rules on the use of ladders and lifts. Be sure you know the rules that apply to your theater. Whoa! Look what's happening here! Don't leave materials or tools on ladder steps or top shelf.
Lifts are great for servicing areas far above the stage. For necessary stability, make sure you have someone there to spot you. And put outriggers in place.
When moving any lift, be sure the floor is clear and that there is nothing overhead to block its path.
If in doubt about the condition of the floor or the competence of the movers, get down and walk to the next location. When using heavy lifts on temporary platforms, be sure the less sturdy flooring can accommodate the additional weight. Secure and cover cable running along the floor to help prevent stumbling and damage to stage cables. Use wide tape, flame retardant carpet, or a commercial rubber gutter to help smooth out the floor. Secure extension cables together to prevent disconnection and a possibility of electrical short or fire. Cables coming to a lighting instrument need to be tied right here next to the C-clamp, so the electrician has plenty of flexibility when focusing, and the cable can't be pulled out of the plug. Never coil or wrap cable around pipes, raceways, drop boxes, or floor mounts.
Wrapping or coiling cable around metal objects can cause a magnetic field.
Cables should be bundled and tied. Use the shortest extension cable possible. Be sure the cables and plugs being used can safely carry the electrical capacity of the equipment being served. Deviations from rated capacity can cause overheating and fire and have led to many deaths. Easy-to-follow capacity charts are available in theatrical supply catalogs and from electrical suppliers. Theater cables and instruments take a tremendous beating. Keep an eye out for damaged cables, especially at the plug. If there's wire exposed or no strain relief in place, fix it. Don't attempt to use any electrical items that are not in proper working order.
If you have asbestos-covered cables on old twofers, get rid of them properly and buy new, non-asbestos ones. Have a certified asbestos electrician retrofit spotlight cables with new fiberglass or high-temperature SO rubber-covered cables.
OSHA requires that the work area be kept clean and safe. Hang up or store extension cables at every opportunity. This prevents tripping on cables and keeps cords and plugs in better condition. In areas where scenery and lighting are fighting for space, watch for the fire potential caused by closely focused or overheated spotlights.
Wear gloves when working with spotlights. They reduce injuries from sharp metal and hot equipment. Cracks in the protective shield on HMI lights release ultraviolet light that can cause skin cancer and eye damage. Halogen lamps should not be touched with oily objects, like the human hand. Oil creates a hot spot on the glass and causes it to burn out very quickly. Use the manufacturer's plastic sleeve, a handkerchief, or any other clean object when installing these lamps. Much of the machinery around the costume shop is sharp and hot and demands the operators to employ considerable care.
These tools require specific training for their proper use. Some are simple to operate, but some can be complicated and necessitate personal protection equipment. Be extremely careful around heated dye water. Wear a heavy-duty plastic apron and gloves when handling wet or hot materials.
Because of the threat of HIV and hepatitis B, contaminated sewing needles must be disposed of immediately in an infectious waste box. Never put these items in a regular trash can. Larger items that have been contaminated may be sterilized using approved methods. Burns from hot glue guns can be reduced by following a few key tips. Number 1, use a stand for the gun and tape it to the work table so the gun can't slip off the surface. Number 2, tie any extension cord to the table leg to prevent the gun from being pulled off accidentally. Number 3, if the power can be brought in from overhead or from a secure distribution box, it's even better. Even when following these guidelines, many operators report serious burns from glue guns due to the intricate handwork involved.
In addition to using the supplies from the first aid kit, the UCSD costume shop grows aloe plants to aid in relieving the pain from hot glue gun burns. Take a broken leaf and gently rub it on the wound to lessen the burning sensation.
Costume shop workers tend to stand a great deal. Avoid aggravating back and leg problems by standing on a black cushioned rubber mat. Hey, cool! Dangerous tools and chemical hazards don't know the difference between a large budget or a shoestring theater operation. Be sure you receive complete instructions on the safe operation of every tool and accessory you use. Ask yourself these questions. What is the purpose of the tool? What doesn't it do? What is dangerous about this tool, and in what ways might it hurt me? When in doubt, ask. Most shop accidents happen because of operator error. Operators are either not using the right tool for the job, or not using the tool correctly, or they're simply daydreaming. OSHA regulations are especially strict about the use of equipment safety guards. All blade shields must be in place. Always use a push stick when working on the table saw. Keep fingers away from the cutting area on all saws. Don't attempt to artificially stop any machinery that has been turned off. Never abandon running machinery, and never leave a piece of machinery until it has stopped running. Finally, know how to properly turn on and turn off your machinery. If you don't protect yourself, the same tools that can make for a creative life in the theater will destroy your hearing. Long-term, unprotected exposure to noise levels found in most theaters will guarantee deafness. Hearing loss is completely preventable. If you work in a theater where the noise level is often above 85 dB, a lawnmower generates about 90 dB, your theater is legally required under OSHA regulations to have a hearing conservation program. Loud sounds can cause temporary hearing loss by stunning the nerves on the eardrum. The eardrum has a built-in tolerance and is able to recover from occasional loud and percussive sounds. However, as the sound gets louder and the exposure gets longer, the likelihood of permanent hearing loss moves from possible to probable. The solutions for theater ears are simple. Number 1, reduce sound at the source by enclosing noisy equipment. Number 2, sound dampen the space by treating walls and ceilings. And number 3, wear personal hearing protection devices. High-frequency noise is transmitted mostly by air and tends to be the most damaging to the ear. It is also the easiest to control, since it can be reduced by simply blocking the path to the eardrum. There are dozens of hearing protection devices on the market. Two kinds frequently found in theaters are earmuffs, which cover the ears, and earplugs, which are inserted in and block the ear canal. Because earplugs provide protection by blocking the air path to the eardrum, their effectiveness is dependent upon proper fit and insertion. These slow recovery foam plugs are rolled between the fingers to make them more compact, then inserted into the ear canal where they slowly expand to its size and shape. Inexpensive, they provide a high level of protection.
Foam plugs must be gently held in the ear for 30 seconds to properly expand and fit the opening.
Earmuffs are easier to use, but also easier to misuse, since glasses, long hair, and the like can prevent a tight seal around the ear. In extremely noisy environments, both earmuffs and earplugs can be worn together. When you are buying ear protection, look for the noise attenuation rating on the box. The higher the number, the more sound it stops. And speaking of hearing, many theaters ban the use of personal stereo headsets because you can't hear your tools or calls for emergency. Never wear ties, loose-fitting clothing, long-sleeve shirts, scarves, jewelry, furs. Essentially, avoid wearing anything that might get caught in machinery and pull you into it. Tie long hair back, or wear a hat if necessary, to keep hair from being tangled in power equipment. Do not talk to or distract any power tool operator. Breaking their concentration might cause an injury. Pranks, horseplay, and running around in the theater and shop are dangerous. And the theater gods will get you. Nails, screws, bolts, staples, and other hardware are not to be left sticking out of reusable lumber. Remove them immediately or throw the wood away. Lumber going into a used wood bin must be clean of all foreign objects. You don't want to run across a hidden nail as you're cutting a used piece of lumber. There's an old saying in the theater: body parts cut with a sharp blade are easier to sew back on. Never point an air staple gun at anyone, especially when connecting or disconnecting. Even with a safety trigger, some guns tend to shoot a staple upon connection. Some of the larger guns can be quite noisy, so wear ear protection.
At the end of a project or work call, return tools to their proper storage place and clean up the area. Do not use compressed air to clean up. It creates too much dust.
Junk and lack of storage space around theaters is both a safety and fire hazard. Good housekeeping is essential to an efficient, safe environment and a requirement of federal laws.
The use of polyester resins, epoxy resins, and even the more hazardous polyurethane AB foam resins is one of the most dangerous activities in theater work. The vapors from these processes are highly toxic. Spraying AB foams, for example, is extremely dangerous due to the risk of inhalation of isocyanates, which cause possibly fatal chemical pneumonia and severe asthma. Isocyanates caused the thousands of deaths in Bhopal, India several years ago. If AB foams are sprayed, it must be done in a spray booth or while wearing a self-contained breathing apparatus. There is no cartridge respirator approved for protection against the spraying or burning of polyurethane foams. Many theaters forbid the use of these polyurethane foams for all of the above reasons. Expanded polystyrene is much less dangerous as it uses pentane as a blowing agent. Still, adequate fresh air ventilation is needed. Know the material you are working with. A big problem arises when theater workers find old foam pieces around the theater and do not know its chemical makeup. Read the MSDSs that come with the foam. If it doesn't have an MSDS, don't use it. Polyester and epoxy resins require complete personal protection with approved gloves, respirators, and goggles.
The two most pressing problems in the welding area are ultraviolet radiation and eye damage from the electric arc, and the probability of fire caused by sparks and flame. Many theaters do not have an adequate place to weld. It often takes place in a corner of a stage floor or outside, where many people risk viewing the electric arc. Looking at the arc directly without eye protection can cause arc eye, conjunctivitis, or permanent damage to the retina.
When possible, welding should be done in a separate area, away from the stage and always behind protective curtains. Sparks from a welding operation can travel up to 40 feet. This makes fire a major concern when welding is taking place. OSHA has very specific regulations to be followed for welding.
Do not use solvents or paint thinner to clean your skin. Use a waterless hand cleaner instead. In a pinch, baby oil and even vegetable oil can serve as an excellent waterless hand cleaner. Scenery and prop shops must have an approved flammable liquid storage cabinet for the storage of flammable liquids. Return spray paints, thinners, and cleaners to storage after each use. Because of all of the hazardous materials one is exposed to while working in the theater, keep an extra set of clothes on hand just for grubby theater or shop work. Leave them in the theater at the end of the work shift, and be sure to wash them frequently and separately from other clothes. I know this is a lot of material to cover in a short amount of time. Most of these safety areas can be explored more thoroughly using the sources that follow. But with the introduction to theater safety you've just seen, you now have an increased awareness on how you can and need to protect yourself. I'm David Fenner, and from all of us at Theater Arts Video Library, don't break a leg, play it safe. The information on this video is compiled from sources that specialize in theater safety. They include the Center for Safety in the Arts, CSA. CSA has many helpful publications, including data sheets on many important topics for theater safety, Art Hazards News, and a special resource issue that provides a central list of safety referrals in the United States and in Canada. CSA also has a computer bulletin board which offers instant, up-to-date information on a wide range of safety subjects. Arts, Crafts, and Theater Safety, or ACTS, is headed by Monona Rasal. Contact her to subscribe to AXFAX, a publication that keeps abreast of current safety laws and health practices. Also, Monona Rasal's book, Stage Fright, is an excellent resource for all theater workers. This book includes a clear rundown on how to meet all the OSHA right-to-know laws. The United States Institute of Theater Technology, USITT, is a national and regional leader in improving theater safety. Their magazine, Theater Design and Technology, frequently carries safety articles. The newsletter Sightlines often provides information on stress, fatigue, and other controllable personal hazards. USITT has many other publications, including an excellent review of rigging standards. Theater consultant Eric M. Friend of the USITT Texas region has a series of publications on theater safety that represents the kind of literature available through specialists in theater safety planning. Risk International has a handy pocket guide to theater safety with many of the nitty-gritty details on engineering and specific law identification. Rosemary Ingham and Liz Covey discuss safety in the costume shop in their book, The Costume Designer's Handbook. Fabric Painting and Dyeing for the Theater by Deborah M. Dryden is very exact about standards needed for the safe use of chemicals in the dye shop.
Daryl Wynn of the Department of Dramatic Arts at the University of California, Davis has a very clear outline of hazards and preventative advice that may be used as a guide for your theater. Consult the yellow pages for professional safety supply companies. Much of the personal protection equipment needed for theater work is not available through small hardware stores.
Finally, the American Association of Theater Educators, AATE, has an easy-to-read checklist on safety hazards.